Mark Carney got caught planning to shut down your parliament the second he thought nobody was looking, and now he is standing in front of cameras trying to convince you it never happened. Folks, this is not a rumor. This is not some conservative spin job. His own people leaked it. His own insiders told the Globe and Mail the plan was on the table, and now he is red-faced trying to walk it back like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. This is today's news. And it is a bigger deal than most Canadians are going to realize sitting at their kitchen table this morning. So let me break this down for you nice and simple, the way you would explain it to your neighbor over the back fence. There are 3 by-elections happening on April 13th. 3 ridings: University Rosedale in Toronto, Scarborough Southwest in Toronto, and Terrebonne up in Quebec just north of Montreal. Now, 2 of those Toronto ridings are basically guaranteed Liberal wins. The third one, Terrebonne, is the spicy one. That riding was won by the Liberals by exactly 1 vote in the last election. 1 single vote. The Bloc Québécois took it all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, arguing that some mail-in ballots had the wrong return address on them and were never counted. The Supreme Court agreed and threw the whole result out. So now they are running it back, and Carney is sweating because if he does not win Terrebonne, his grand plan starts to crumble. Here is why all 3 seats matter so much. Right now, after all his backroom dealings, Carney's Liberals sit at 170 seats in a 343-seat House of Commons. You need 172 to tie. You need 173 for a proper majority. If he sweeps all 3 on April 13th, he hits 173. Barely over the line. A majority so thin you could slide it under a door. But a majority. And the moment that happened, according to his own Liberal insiders, the plan was to prorogue Parliament, shut it down, hit the big red reset button, start a brand new session with a new throne speech, and, most importantly, rebuild every single House committee from scratch in his favor. Now, if you are sitting there going, "What is a committee and why do I care?" Let me tell you. Parliamentary committees are where legislation actually gets picked apart. They are where government scandals get investigated. They are where opposition MPs dig into the books and ask the questions the government does not want answered. Right now, because the Liberals only won a minority government last April, those committees are stacked with Conservative and Bloc Québécois members who can slow down or kill bad legislation and keep investigations going. Carney hates that. A majority would let him win votes on the floor of the House, sure, but it would not automatically flip the committees. Those standings were frozen in place by a motion that passed in June. So even with 173 seats, he would still be staring down committee tables where the opposition outnumbers him. That is exactly why prorogation was the play. You prorogue Parliament, every committee gets wiped out, and when you come back, you rebuild them to reflect whatever your new seat count is. Poof! Investigations gone. Opposition oversight gone. Liberal agenda on a glide path with nobody standing in the way. This is not paranoia, folks. This is not me making things up. His own insiders told this to reporters. 2 Liberal Party sources told the Globe and Mail directly. And then Carney went in front of cameras in Wakefield, Quebec and said, and I am paraphrasing, "It never even entered my thinking." Absolute nonsense. His own team floated it. His own House Leader's office was apparently discussing it. Either he did not know what his own staff were planning, which would be its own kind of problem, or he is standing there lying to Canadians on camera. You pick. And here is the part that should really bother you. This is not the first time the Liberals have used prorogation as a political weapon. Remember when Justin Trudeau shut down Parliament for more than 2 months when he announced he was resigning? That whole thing? He prorogued to buy his party time to pick a new leader and to run out the clock on a confidence vote that would have thrown them out. Trudeau did it to save his own skin. And now Carney, the guy Trudeau essentially hand-picked and handed the keys to without an election, was apparently plotting to do the same thing from a position of strength rather than weakness. Same party, same playbook, different jersey. That is all that changed. Now let me talk about how Carney even got close to this majority, because that part of the story gets a lot less coverage than it deserves. He did not win 170 seats at the ballot box. He started with 169 after the April election last year. He's been running the longest backroom recruiting drive in recent Canadian political memory. 4 opposition MPs have crossed the floor to join his Liberals. 4. We have got Chris D'Entremont, a Nova Scotia Conservative, Michael Ma from an Ontario Conservative riding, Matt Genereux from Edmonton Riverbend, a true deep blue Conservative seat. And just weeks ago, Nunavut NDP MP Lori Eidlaut, who had been calling out the Carney government publicly as recently as last August, saying she was disgusted by their treatment of Nunavut, turns around and crosses the floor. Now think about that for a second. These are people who ran against Carney, who campaigned against Carney, who told their own constituents that the Liberals were wrong for Canada. And then they had some private conversations, the details of which we are not allowed to know. And suddenly they are smiling in Liberal caucus photos. Pierre Poilievre called it backroom deals, and he is not wrong to ask the question, what did these people get promised? What conversations happened behind closed doors that turned Lori Eidlaut from disgusted critic to Liberal member? Canadians deserve an answer to that, and the voters in those ridings deserve better. The people of Edmonton Riverbend voted for a Conservative member. They did not vote for a Liberal seat. The people of Nunavut voted NDP. They did not vote for a Liberal seat. You cannot walk in there, campaign under one flag, win under that flag, and then change the fundamental balance of power in Parliament because you cut a deal with the Prime Minister. There is a reason polls consistently show that most Canadians think floor crossers should have to face their constituents in a by-election before they switch teams. It is just basic fairness, eh? Poilievre said it plain this week. He said it is time for Carney to get to work and start delivering results. And you know what? He is right. But getting results was never actually the plan. The plan was to accumulate power first and then govern without anyone being able to stop you. That is what the floor crossing is about. That is what the prorogation plan was about. Stack the deck, lock in the majority, silence the committees, and then do whatever you want. Here's the thing about April 13th that a lot of folks might not be thinking about. Even if Carney wins all 3 seats, even if he hits 173, his majority is so gossamer thin that one Liberal MP being stuck in traffic, one member traveling abroad, one person homesick with a cold can turn a majority vote into a tie. And if you tie, the Speaker votes to preserve the status quo, meaning the government loses. So he needs every single one of those 173 people in their seat, awake, voting correctly, every single time anything meaningful comes to a vote. That is not a majority. That is a tightrope walk over Niagara Falls in socks. And now add to that the committee problem that prorogation was supposed to solve, but he says he is no longer going to use. He is promising to work with opposition-controlled committees like some kind of changed man. This from the same guy whose insiders were drawing up prorogation plans before the by-elections even happened. Look, folks, I have seen more convincing performances at a school Christmas pageant. What this whole story really tells you is that the Carney government is not governing. It is maneuvering. Every move, the floor crossings, the by-elections, the prorogation leak and denial, is about accumulating power and shutting down accountability. The opposition committees doing their jobs are not a bug in this government's plan. They are the whole problem that needs to be eliminated. And when Canadians gave Carney a minority last spring, they were saying, "Hey, we want checks on this government. We want someone watching." That is what a minority means. That is the democratic instruction the voters gave. His response has been to spend the better part of a year trying to make the minority disappear by any means available. That is not respecting the democratic result. That is trying to get around it. So when those 3 by-elections happen on April 13th, remember what you are actually watching. It is not just a couple of Toronto ridings and a Quebec rematch. It is Carney's final piece of the puzzle in a year-long project to turn a minority mandate into unchecked power. And if he gets it, you can bet that those committees, those investigations, and any meaningful opposition oversight is going to have a very rough go of it, no matter what he told the cameras in Wakefield. Pay attention to Terrebonne, folks. That one riding could be the difference between a government that has to answer for itself and one that does not. And right now, that matters more than most people pulling up to the Timmy's drive-thru this morning probably realize.